So this is important to understand, so that the universe, so they'll say, and I hear this so much now, maybe I'm just cued into it, or I think they're stepping it up. Oh, maybe the universe will be good to me. You know, I'll give my prayers out to the universe and maybe they'll answer me. This whole universe, this quote unquote world soul, whatever, all right? But to a certain extent, the universe mirrors the models, beliefs, structures, actions that exist within our being. What we're emanating to a large extent does, and it's so interconnected. What we're imaging and eject on everybody else and on everything. See, it's so, if we understood this thing, but the universe mirrors so that it is a reflection and it is a steady flow of holographic projections. All right. So this way I understand, it is a holographic kind of world. Our world is so slowed down, and we do manifestation. And there is something to being a positive. Well, of course, if you live under Torah law, you're under the blessings of the Father, you're obedient, and you are positive, you're going to reap a lot of good karma. Okay, and the Jews have always known that. And, the early, this is part of the given, all right? But at the same time, I don't want to make it so simplistic because there are a lot of factors out there that are way beyond, and I won't get into that. But, so all things in nature are like the human body, and so the human body corresponds to things in the heavens. The heavens correspond to, and not just us. Usually the text is very Adamic centric because that's the story we're dealing with, our fall, all right? But it has a lot to say, and this affects all the other kingdoms also. Doesn't it say that all creation is groaning and waiting together for the liberation of the sons of God? Because they're under a curse too, basically, all right? It's not pretty for really anybody, all right? Now, this idea of the correspondences, I want to say this. The ancients understood this. And when I say the ancients, there's two ways. A lot of the world before Moshe, all right, and before, which the sages call, there was 2,000 years of chaos when this information was around for everybody, and the good guys and the bad guys, were the Titans and the Olympians. And then you had this time of Torah, 2,000 years, basically, where the nation of Israel, this information was locked down with the nation of Israel in a covenant that they would keep it, and they would tell the world, they would honor the Most High God, so that everybody would know, the gods of the nations would know they're the people of the High God. And but we know the history didn't all go that perfectly, and the two of the houses were divided, and now you have a bunch of Ephraimites out there, and the house of Judah. Okay, but that's another whole story. But when I say the ancients, I'm talking about Book of Enoch. Enochian understanding was the worldview. A lot of that understanding that everybody had. I mean, they say the Alexandrian library, a lot of the ancient had this information, and everyone had access to it and spun it, so to speak, however they wanted. I'm going to get into this when I get into metals and idols, and how idols, the beginning of idols, falsities, abominations, those are all okay, but my point was, until Moshe really took all that understanding. This is what, and he had, in a huge dialogue with the Father, he cleaned it up. He had a ton of information from Egypt, which part of it was Abrahamic. You understand? Part of it was the pagan understanding. He got it all cleaned up in his head. He received incredibly amazing downloads of information, and he recorded some of it, but it went into this kind of oral tradition. And I don't want to get into all this stuff with the 70 elders, because in the ancient world, they considered oral understanding or mental comprehension, what's the word I'm looking for? Memory. You just remember something perfect, much higher than a written text. All right, we flipped it around, but they had a different hierarchy on that. All right. But anyways, for 2,000 years, it was kind of locked down. Today, has remained always in the house of Judah. Okay? Now, this understanding So the ancients understood Enochian worldview. So if you read it, and it's very coded, but you can get an understanding there's a lot more going on in this cosmos than just us. You got the watch angels, you got all these different dimensions and interfacing with different, it's a very busy cosmos in the book of Enoch, really, okay? So it says that, and then it became kind of locked down within the house of Israel, ultimately with the house of Judah, okay? Now, this understanding, this science of correspondence was the science of science. See, this is why, going back to an understanding of the ancients, how they practiced a lot of their quote-unquote religious rituals and practices, what were they doing, all right? They had perfected cutting of roots, like I said, the gold and the silver, all these, they had perfected, firstly on the dark side, with not only the knowledge of the watcher angels, the knowledge of, the Enochian understanding of the heavens, and just like I said, they had a lot of dark magic, dark understanding, but so did the righteous remnant. All right, so make no mistake about that. But that this used to be totally understood out there. We have to get this back. It's something that's been taken. Now, it says here in another spot that the ancients were of a genius so heavenly, and that they spoke with angels of heaven. Now, okay, and were able to speak with them by means of correspondences. From this state of their wisdom was rendered such that whatever they saw in this world, they thought about not only in a natural way, but spiritually also at the same time. So they thoroughly united with angels. Now, that sounds really scary, but actually, this is what's going on, and this is what they understood. And we need to get up to speed, because this is a communication that goes on telepathically. This is what's going on in our head. We are getting constantly pinged by quote unquote good angels, bad angels, different thoughts coming into our mind. And that we're supposed to control the thoughts, and we're supposed to immediately when a thought comes in, we're supposed to know which, throw it in or out. You're from the good side, you're from the bad side. I mean, this is what Torah will teach you to do, and you can kind of live in peace, and you can have, but this understanding that there is this level of telepathic communication, all right? And this is what, as we begin to see the ancients and what they were doing and what they were capable of, okay? You see structures like Baalbek, and they talk about how you could raise huge. I mean, we don't understand what is the potential, all right? If it's true that if we can command angels, then angels have to command the forces in the I'm telling you what, there are some pretty crazy sciences that we haven't even begun to, right? So this is all being, I think a lot of people are kind of seeing this around the fringes, but we got to understand how deep this stuff is. And in and of itself, the issue is always the intent of the person. You're your own boss, okay? You are in control of your thoughts, your intentions, your emotive power, what you eat and what you think, all right? And you will be judged and weighed in the balances. Remember the story of Belshazzar, and as he was praising the gods of wood and stone and silver and bronze, and then all of a sudden the handwriting, another dimension comes in and writes on it and says, look, buddy, you have been weighed in the balance, and your kingdom is going down. You've just gotten too off here. You are not, okay, so all right, so let me just keep moving here. I wanted to make a couple of these points. See, because before the flood, this was the point. Then Yahweh saw the wickedness of man was great on the earth, and that every thought and every intention of the thoughts of his heart was evil continually. Because it starts in the mind. This is, again, where it's important to understand the levels of the soul, the levels of the world, how our mind is our highest processing organ when it is. And it's not all organic. That's another thing the secularists want to tell you. It's all just chemicals floating, and it's all organic. All right? It is literally wired to interface with other dimensions, and that means other interstellar beings. What do you want to call them? Call them forces. I mean, I don't really care. The point is we just got to understand this thing theologically. All right? But I do prefer we would go back to more the Hebraic words and the Hebraic understanding. So then Yahweh saw, and this is again through idol worshiping, it creates a disconnect from Yahweh. It removes the connection to the light, the truth, and it makes way for darkness. So now we have to understand how metals and idols kind of come together and work against us and against Yahweh's kingdom. All right? So let me give you a couple more quick things here. And again, wanting to make this point that the Bible would use the words, okay, so body and soul, that's what we're made of. And there are many levels to our soul, and not everybody has all of the soul levels. This is all part of the story. Some people are, all right, I'm not going to, okay, but it talks about, there's a part about the 4 winds from heaven. There are these, again, 4 groupings, numbers are important, and the 4 foundations. Okay, what is it talking about? All right, and this is, again, content. Winds, whenever it talks about winds or air or spirits or movement, we're always in the heavens. We're talking forces. These are fast. So these are angels, you know, this whole point where they're saying angels got 8 wings or 12 wings or 6 wings. How fast, all right? And foundations. The 4 foundations, we know that there are certain states of matter. And this DNA, this chemical language, can change and morph itself into liquid, solid, gas, and matter. All right, this is, so if we understood how scientific our texts really were, and the information being, and they'll always say, oh, it's all allegorical in the Bible, it's just, no, because they don't understand, they're clueless, all right? But the elect, we are going to get our clues, our keys back. Okay, so the 4 foundations, earth, water, wind, and fire, are representative of the 4 energy states: solid, liquid, gas, and raw energy. All right, and when it talks about, and this kingdom, the way the 4 winds of heaven and the 4 are always working with each other, and there's always, like I said, these wheels are turning. There's this whole movement going on, and underneath it all, holding it all together, is the 5th element in the sea called ether, which is what ancients were, but in really it is, and it is the God particle. There is no vacuum in space. He fills all in all. He is there. Yeah, and it's totally undetectable, but this is the point, all right? There is a kingdom beyond these 4, all right? Even beyond our, all right, so I think I kind of made my points on those. Now let me go to this last kind of understanding, especially with these metals now, all right? Let's bring it down. Because again, the Merkabah, which I told is sort of the Merkabah, is sort of the word Hebraically for this understanding of the whole, the forces, or what Ezekiel saw in the heavens, because he looked up, he saw in the heavens, and it really is the life forces. Because remember, they're the life-giving, the life-moving, the divine energies, the positive and negative energies, the systems that are combining, orchestrating, maintaining, symphonizing, whatever word, recycling the forces and intelligence that keep the heavens running. I mean, this is what we have to understand, okay? And it now, and then when we get down to metals, okay, now like I've said before, it's a DNA, it's an information, it's a chemical language, all right, the way this is used. And, you know, there is a lot to it, but to give, in these quick videos, I just want to give a quick, let me see if I missed any kind of notes here, because I'm going to go into, back this up into how this works in us physically, how it works in us astrally, our emotions, in our heart, that whole domain, that whole world, and in our mind, this electromagnetic, how our brain, they're coming up with, they know so much now about how our brain, and it's totally electrical, and it's bits of information jumping, see, from one to the other. It's incredible, all right? And I think I can't remember the speed of it. I had it written down somewhere, that they clocked. It's just like, it blows your mind. But anyways, anybody who thinks that the human is a lesser, or so it comes from an animal, I mean, that's so rude to Elohim. But anyways, sulfur. Now let's just get into this to give you one. I'm going to end on this because we're going to come back. The Jews call iron, all right, nekoshet. Now in one of the last videos, I went into the listing, to the best of my determination, some of the major metals that are listed, but those are just the tip of the iceberg classifications of this whole world, of this domain, this silent world, rocks, minerals, gems, everything that's, all right? So the Jews, to this, it's a word, nechoshet, all right? And it literally means droppings of the serpent. So why would iron, the metal, be called just the droppings of the serpent? What's the connection here, all right? Because I want to unpack this. So then when you go into the concept to the, in Daniel, where it talks about in the beast kingdoms, these kingdoms, they're gold, they're silver, they're bronze, they're telling us something, all right? And it's way bigger and deeper. But the last kingdom, the kingdom that's made of iron and clay, all right? On many levels, this is what it's talking about. Iron mixed with clay, they shall mingle themselves with one another, because one of the whole big problems is what they call forbidden mixtures, right? It's huge. Things that are not supposed to mix together that cause problems and viruses, and that do, because and so iron is the kingdom. This is a way of their telling us, coding with iron. Iron is equated with the planet Mars. Everybody knows Mars is the planet of war, of violence. It's a huge negative energy all right, now let me just say this one point. There is a connection to, that's why you always have a connection, of course, between planets, stars, planets, metals, days of the week, colors, and angels. Like a lot of times the archangels, okay? Because they're making correspondence, because this is a language, a way that they communicated kind of what was happening, what was going on, all right, in this thing. And so iron mixed with clay is a concept how the angels of the lesser, or how we call it, Satan, all right, because everybody, serpent is another word for Satan, all right? And he mixed himself. He was able to mix himself into the DNA, the info bits, really, that what it does have of the atom that was just created, right? That's the point. So this is a code way. And again, if you understand your Sephiroth, Mars is related to the Sephiroth Gevera, which is the Sephiroth for judgment and justice. And so they know exactly what they're saying, the correspondences between iron, between Gevera, between judgment, between the offspring, all right, a mixture. So this is how specific it is, all right? And another way is, it says here, sulfur. So, I want to make this last point, because on top of all this, there's one more thing that you have to really kind of always keep in the bottom of your mind, is that not only in these correspondences, but there's two sides to the story. There's a left and a right side going on. There's good and there's evil. So not only is this thing turning, but there's also two sides of the coin, so to speak. So you have good and you have evil. You have an evil inclination. You have the holy inclination, all right? And you have angels on the left side, demonically fallen, charged, Satan, angels that are under Hasatan's authority and power. And he says go, and they go, let me tell you. But what is this thing? See, and this is why the world is always, again, telling us the same truths over and over, archetype laying one on top of the other, this dualistic concept we live in. And you can live in either kingdom. You can kind of move in and out of either kingdom. You can be kind of in the middle, or you can kind of wholly be living in one or the other. I mean, this is all part of the mix. But when you look at nature, and it says, we can have perverse feelings, we can have good emotions, or you can have good emotions, bad emotions. You can have, there are good animals and there are bad animals. There are the wild beasts of the field who tear apart their victims, per se. And there are cattle who are just benign and great, okay, and live in harmony. This is the one. There are plants. There are poisonous plants, and there are healthful, healing, herbal plants, all right? So this is all part of it, all right? So, and this is what he meant, where curses the ground, all right? So in other words, you can live, if you're in the negative energy, that ground, that energy field is going to be very cursed and dark, and it's not going to yield any good fruit. And it's really just, really, gonna die and wheat or tares for the fire, okay, versus the side of the light and the promises there. So you have to understand all of this is how all of this information has been being transmitted to us. So I hope you enjoyed that opening. Come back, stick with me. It's gonna get a lot more interesting, and I will see you in the next video. Shalom.